Hello! This is going to be the third devlog, and we're going to be focusing on the level design of Chapter 2's Yerevan City again. It's going to be a really short one because this week has been quite busy, to be honest. Alright, so what did I do? So it was about time I already started working, really solidifying the map. Basically, I envisioned for this mid-ground part of the map to be just a bit complicated in a certain way. I wanted the player to be able to move through streets, under them, over them, and stuff, and I just wanted to look like a real metropolis. So I tested that idea out here, and it was a very simple idea to execute. I just added colliders for each space where the player would have to change its order in sorting layer. Every time the collider registered that the player is in there, it would just change its order to the respective place it should be on for it to be visible on that certain street. I went ahead and executed that in the final project, and I realized that the colors of the streets looked absolutely hideous. So I went back into Procreate, which is my favorite drawing app, and fixed up the colors, put them back in Unity. Looked amazing, perfect. In the meantime, I realized that I would really need a good blueprint of all of the colors and structure of the map itself. So I decided to go ahead and draw the final sketch of the map, taking into account all of the side quests and everything and all the story progression points that would occur in the game. For example, one of the side quests, actually, there's this quarrel between two lovers on separate sides of the city, and they're just really sassy, so they don't want to meet up, but they're okay with having us, the player, exchange their messages, and for each time you exchange a message you get a fish or some sort of little reward. Alright, moving on. As a little side quest of my own, I decided to work on these little teleportation devices I want to have in the map, where when you enter it, you're teleported back into the Ottoman Empire inspired map of the early access game that you've seen. So for now, I just wanted to animate it properly, and for those who don't know, there's this beautiful package called Demi-Giant Tweening or something. I use it for almost everything that's animation related in my games. It's beautiful. The other alternative, I think, would just be to use the coroutines that Unity gives, but they kind of really suck. This DG Tweening package that you can install compresses 30 lines of coroutine code into one pretty little function. So the three objectives for this little animation would be: when you enter its collider, it should start spinning really fast until it reaches a certain point where it should only speed up at constant speed so your computer doesn't blow up. And if you exit the collider prematurely before you get teleported, then it should just slow down to a halt like a regular machine. But if you have crossed the point of no return within the collider, then it should grab you and then scale you up to give the effect that you've gotten closer to the camera, and then it should take you back in to mimic the visual that you were sucked into this portal. So I implemented that, but everything smoothed out once I figured out which animation I should use for the preferred effect, and also after I realized that ChatGPT could totally help me with this. Thank you, ChatGPT. Everything worked out, put it in the map. Oh my gosh, it works. Amazing. I continued drawing the map and adding little assets in, but when at some point I realized that the perspective camera is not going to be the camera that I need for this game, I decided to change it back to orthographic because all of my assets were just moving with the player when they should have just stayed fixed in the screen. Maybe there could have been a different solution to this because there were some aspects of the perspective camera that I really needed. For example, when you were walking past this big lady statue and her head was moving separately from her body, I think that was a cool effect. But if you might know a solution to this issue where I can still use perspective while locking in certain sprites, please let me know in the comments. That would be really helpful. Then I started clarifying at which points the player can move from one street to another, because that's important. As one final thing, I set up a couple of colliders to move the player from the midground to the foreground or from the midground to the background, and that worked perfectly, but there were just two issues. Firstly, the camera didn't move with the player. Again, I think because I switched from perspective to orthographic. But because I'm using the Cinemachine camera, there's no way it would follow the X and Y axes of the player and not the Z axis. I'm sure I can change that in some way. And then the second issue was that the colliders themselves are not sensitive to which Z coordinate you are on the axis. For example, the collider could be over here and the player could be here, but if you move below the collider, it's going to sense that you crossed it, and it's probably because I'm using the 2D colliders and they would naturally ignore the Z-axis in a 2D game because you don't technically need it in general cases. If you know a solution to either of these issues, please let me know. I wasn't able to solve these two issues this week because again it was a very busy week and I just tried to do as much as I could. Obviously I'm going to keep logging down the progress for this specific map, but I'll probably not be working on it within the next week because I want to start working on improving the early access game and I'm just getting it to its really polished level. So next week I'm going to be talking about the code patterns in the game. So I'm gonna draw a whole diagram of the whole code, talk about where I went wrong, what I should keep, how many update loops I used throughout all of the scripts because I'm very curious about that, and that's definitely one of the reasons why I had so many bugs in the game. I'm also going to be integrating one of my favorite coding pattern books or whatever. So it's this book called Game Programming Patterns by Robert Nystrom or Nystrom, I don't know, I'm sorry. But it's a beautiful book and I'm going to be integrating it into the next video. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Love you guys. And again, if there's anything else that you would like me to talk about in the game, any other progress, let me know, seriously. Okay, anyway, bye.